Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Spar and Brawl. My name is Kam Kompani, and I hope you're having a decent day. We have a packed show for you today, and it's very much geopolitics focused. But first, let me introduce you my co-host and sparring partner, Sam Donishvar. Sam, how are you doing? And can you give us a little preview of what we have in store for today?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm good. Thank you. I hope you're good. I think you are because we talked before this. But yeah, that's a little
No, no,
behind the
no. We just
scenes there for
started.
you guys, pulling the magic of cinema. Anyway, no, yeah, we have a great, I think we have a couple of good stories. Nothing, to be honest, too deep in terms of analysis, but we have a story about the evolving situation between Turkey and Greece. We have another one on the evolving situation between India and China. And then we're going to talk again about the evolving situation, I suppose, of Iranian uh, struggles with international community on the nuclear issue, especially America. And then a interesting, I think, story from internal uh, politics, I suppose, or internal society of Iran. And yeah, that's about it, to be honest, I think. Maybe something else, we'll see.
Yeah, so Sam has a quite a fun story about Iran.
خود نماینده مجلس پیاده شده یه شک زده زیر گوش من که این هم شاهد داریم هم گرفته نماینده
An incident that happened with a police officer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
It's
can't wait to
quite
hear that. I've just heard the
involves
beginning.
high-ranking officials,
Okay,
all of that. So it's good.
brilliant. We'll get to that. Okay, so that reminds me, let me do this officially for the first time. We have timestamps in the comment box below, so if you want to just jump to one of our other stories, you can do that. And we also include links to some of the articles and things that we mentioned in the description box. If there's ever one that we haven't and you'd like to know more about it, you can always leave us a comment or email us. Fine, of course, comment anything, any criticism if you think we haven't covered something properly. And of course, please like and subscribe. But okay, let's get into our first story, which is about Greece, Turkey. So Sam, Greece and Turkey, they had a meeting in Istanbul just this Monday. It was widely covered by the media, and now they're going to have a second round of talks in Athens. So can you just start by telling us what these meetings are about and why are they important?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we did cover this in our previous video. If you're looking for the details on the recent flare-ups between Turkey and Greece, so hopefully, if anybody is interested, they can check those out for the details. But basically, the disputes date back to formation of Greece and Turkey as nation states, and the disputes are over the territories in the Aegean Sea, which Greeks claim that because of international law, which they are signatory to, they can uh, they can claim basically they are saying that their islands should be counted as the mainland Greece, and therefore the water surrounding those should be based on international law, be part of Greece. Turkey disputes that, obviously, because some of Greek islands are very close to Turkey. Some of them are closer to Turkey than to Greece, and says that if we do that, then Aegean Sea will be a Greek lake, basically. So that's the Turkish position. But the disputes are over the waters in Aegean Sea, and they've been going on for many years. I think they had negotiations from 1970s to 1999. They fell apart, but then they started. And from the year 2000 onwards, the relationship between Greece and Turkey has had improved, and Greece was actually one of the countries that was pushing for Turkish uh, joining of the EU originally, not in recent years, because they saw that as a way to, if Turkey and EU have better, closer relationships, then they can, then it's better for Greece as well in terms of economy, in terms of trade, all of that, because they're neighbors. So, they've had a very, it's a long-term conflict. It's been going on for years, but the talks fell apart, I think, in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. The talks have been frozen or suspended since then, and this is a resumption of those talks. Both sides have been somewhat positive. Greeks said that they hope that Turkey has a spirit, enters the negotiations in good spirit. Turkish foreign minister said that he hopes that Greeks understand that this conflict could be a casus belli, if I'm not mistaken, which means a cause for conflict. So we should try to compromise and all that. So both sides seems to be ready to compromise, and it's important to note that I think the recent flare-up and the subsequent negotiations and peace talks is somewhat due to the fact that there has been discovery of gas in the Mediterranean Sea. So that's really sped up the conflicts, the tensions, the problems between the two countries.
Yeah, definitely. So I had a few questions for you, but I think you've answered a
Sure.
few of them. But one of them where you were talking about the islands and how many Greek islands there are. So apparently there are thousands of islands. And so just to recap kind of what you were saying to understand properly according to
So
international... Sorry?
mostly uninhabited, like
Yeah.
they basically rocks in the water.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Okay, and according to international law, even the same distance that is applied to normal borders of a country apply to your islands. So everything from there becomes, and so apparently they extended the radius. I'm not mistaken, right? Just last week, Greece said that it's extending the radius of how far of the water it includes as part of its territory, right?
That was, I assume that was part of the Greek. They have passed the law that they're gonna push the maximum level of basically
which is 12
recognition, which is the international law is based on from the coast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's 18 kilometers or 14 kilometers from the coast, I forget. But so they're saying that those islands, coasts are also should be viewed the same as a mainland coast. Mm-hmm. So, but the thing is, Turkey is not a signatory to that treaty, to the treaty that does. I think Turkey and US are the only countries that are not a signatory. So I'm not sure on that, so don't quote me on that. But so that's the issue. That's the main issue.
Yeah. Okay, and then, so I mean, you touched on these points, but anything else you want to add? So I want to ask you about the history of the talks a little bit. They didn't really start right now, but I guess they've always been over maritime issues. And why now, which you kind of touched on, right, is because of the discovery of the gas reserves, really, that are pushing the two countries to have talks right now.
To be honest, the old problem for this issue for this dispute was that the fact that Turkey wanted to talk about all the issues it had with Europe in one series. It's kind of like similar to Iranian-US thing that at different times, different parts wanted to negotiate, but on different issues. Turkey wanted to negotiate about all disputes it has with the EU. Greece wanted to just talk about this dispute because they don't have any leverage. Like if they start talking about everything that EU has problems with Turkey, then EU might compromise Greece for some interest somewhere else, right? That was the old issue. But then Greece, it seemed, came to realization that they should just generally support Turkey's ascension to the EU and all that, because that would, that would benefit them in the long. If Turkey sees that it has access to Europe, it might not be, if it becomes part of EU, basically, then it's not a, it's they're all not that EU is a complete super state, but they share a lot of things. The borders will be more of a legal thing than an actual thing. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I forget which year was it, but for example, one of the times that there was a confrontation that could have led to a complete war was between EU's security for Frontex, if I'm not mistaken. They used airplanes to fight, smuggling, that type of thing. And they came into contact with a Turkish Navy ship. They gave them warnings or something, they said, or a helicopter. So, the problem is largely Greece realizes that it's a smaller player compared to EU and Turkey. That was the history of it, that originally the problem was that Turkey wanted to talk about everything, Greece just wanted to talk about the sea, so there was no talks. Then Greece started supporting Turkey somewhat, but then EU sort of shut it down. They said pretty much, they made it clear Turkey is not going to be part of the EU. And so I guess now, with the discovery of gas and all that, the issue has flared up again. And oh, by the way, it's important to mention that the Turkish foreign minister also said that if EU put sanctions on Turkey, that would ruin everything. I think everybody's realized that EU-Turkish relationship is very much connected to the Aegean Sea dispute, and in many ways they are negotiating against the EU, not so much Greece.
No, that's a very good point. But also, just one thing I wanted to add. So you talked about how before Turkey wanted to talk about everything. Even now they're hinting at, we want these negotiations to be about more, and apparently they specifically want to even talk about ownerships of the islands, which were decided on some previous treaties, and the Greeks don't want to talk about that at all, really.
I see what you. No, I thought that would be, that's part of the Aegean dispute.
Yeah, really. But I've heard that the Greek, from the Turkish side, yeah, exactly. So they've narrowed it down, but the Greeks are like, that's settled, right? We can talk about maybe how much of the water, right? That's maybe where, or who can do the drilling.
Yeah.
They don't want to go as far as talking about the ownership of it. Okay, and then when you were talking about, back then the hopes of Greece with Turkey joining the EU and stuff, that was really a different world 10, 15 years ago. That will not happen. Yeah. But okay, so you mentioned Europe a little bit. So I also heard some reports, just read a little bit here and there, that Europe might be softening its stance towards Turkey. Is there any truth there?
Yeah, it seems both sides have made concrete efforts to de-escalate the tensions. I mean, I think it was last week or a week before that there were reports that Recep Erdogan had contacted French Prime Minister, French President, his arch rival Macron, because they have a very tense relationship. Erdogan has called him mentally, he said he has mental problems, blah blah blah. He called him, and apparently he's gave his condolences for some of the terrorist attacks in France. And apparently Macron wrote a letter calling and the letter started with "Dear Rajab" or Recep, I don't know how you pronounce his name. So it's getting very lovey-dovey there. And the talks of sanctions have somewhat, there's not so much talk of sanction anymore, basically. And Turkey is not doing as much military exercises or as much, they don't go around this Aegean Sea, or they don't get close to islands as much as they did before. So I think EU and Turkey are both making concrete efforts to de-escalate the tensions, which is in the benefit of both sides.
Okay, Sam, so let's move on to our second story. Chinese and Indian troops have reportedly clashed again, this time at the Sikkim border, with injuries reported on both sides, according to Indian media. Tensions have been high along the Chinese-Indian border, which is the world's longest disputed border. Just last June, clashes erupted between Indian and Chinese soldiers, which resulted in over 20 deaths on the Indian side. Sam, can you tell us a little bit what happened specifically this time around?
To be honest, no, I can't, because there has been no. It's quite foggy, the specifics of this clash, except the fact that it happened in Sikkim. So sorry about that. But I can give you some other stuff. For example, I was checking out. First of all, this was only reported by the Indian side, and typically it wasn't reported by the Chinese side. And for example, you just mentioned the fact that there were 20 casualties during the flare-ups during the last, I believe, year. and we don't know how many Chinese have died because Chinese government doesn't is not transparent in that way.
Yeah,
They don't
exactly. Actually, sorry, can I cut
discuss
you
this.
off there? Yeah, it's actually
Sure, sure.
interesting that you saw that, because when I wrote this down, I realized that I'm only putting the casualties on one side. But then I remembered when this happened a few months ago, we also didn't know, right, about the Chinese one. So I thought this is just how it's been reported. But yeah.
Yeah, and last time I checked on this story today, Chinese officials have not commented on this. That they haven't even confirmed that such a class has taken place in Sikkim. Interestingly, I saw the Indian coverage of it, India Today or something, and Print wasn't it, some other channels, and they were, I must say, the way Indians cover this news is very nationalistic. They were saying that yes, China again is trying to do what they did to us in 1950s, 1960s, and this is not a India that would take that anymore. And they emphasize the fact that there are reports that few Chinese have been injured, no casualties, but no Indians have been injured, and they were very, you could see that it's a issue very close to heart of millions in India, so that's the way India covered it. China still hasn't commented, but interestingly to me, as somebody who just pretty much during the last year started to follow geopolitics of China India relations, because that was something that was always a blind spot for me personally. It was interesting because to me this does seem to confirm the fact that China is a has a clear strategy of trying to spread India away from its sea power, from its navy, pretty much. Uh, that's what I've been reading a lot about, that the Chinese strategy seems to be to keep India away from modernizing and improving its naval power, so China can basically dominate the Indian Ocean. And it's like Sikmish is to the east of the area Ladakh, the area that 6 months ago, I believe, or whatever it was, the last flare-up was. This is way further in the east. And when that conflict happened in Ladakh, India was forced into moving significant amount of troops to that region. And India has a far smaller military budget. I believe their military budget comes around something around $80 billion, and the Chinese one comes around $280 billion. So it's not comparable. So China clearly seems to be trying to keep India busy and not away from they're trying to not allow Indians military to develop as fast as the Chinese one is developing, which is quite, I would assume it's quite a natural and probably wise strategy, considering that India has a growing relationship with the US and has the ability to purchase high-end military, high-end missiles from Americans. So that's China. That seems to be the Chinese strategy. And to add to that, just because that I'm not talking bullshit completely. For example, recently there was an area. This was something I saw on the Print channel, which I highly recommend everybody follow that channel. They do a best probably coverage of Indian politics in English language. There is a region called I apologize in advance for mispronunciation. Arunachal Pradesh. This area is to the east of Sikmish even. This is probably like some of the most eastern parts of India or China. This is a disputed area, and in a disputed area controlled by China, they have apparently last week this came out that they built a very high-end luxury village as a, like, I think it's been kept a secret, but it's in a it's the typical program that Chinese government does to combat poverty, and then they build a high-end village in a disputed territory, sort of. It's kind of Israelis do the same in Palestinian areas. If you build a city somewhere, it's going to be far more difficult in negotiations to ask for people to be removed, for structures to be destroyed, that type of thing. So it seems all along the border, because Ladakh is in the north, I think, slightly to the east. It's next to Kashmir and Jammu, and then you have Sikkim, and then you have this area. They're clearly trying to spread, because now Sikkim there wasn't much military presence there from the Indian side, but now I think they're gonna redirect some of their military equipment to that area, just like they did with Ladakh, and then this area, same. So, yeah, it's quite interesting. It seems China is basically trying to keep India busy, but I do think China doesn't need to worry too much. Indian businesses are highly dependent on China, especially their startups. And Modi seems to be more interested in, to be honest, uh, internal politics and to an extent fighting Pakistan, because it's a somewhat weaker enemy. It's an enemy he can fight. And I think Indian, even though they're super nationalistic and all that, I think they do realize that China is an enemy too big for them. I think, uh, yeah, they need to come to an understanding about the Indian Ocean more than about the borders in the north, because all we are talking about is pretty much most of it is useless land. Some of it is strategic because it's high ground, but most of it is land that there are more lands with far more resources. So I think this is about the Indian Ocean and China's access toward trade.
Okay. A lot of extremely interesting stuff there. So let me try to pick up on a few things, see if there's anything more to talk about. So, I mean, yeah, one thing you started about is saying we don't know the specifics and all that, but just with the location, so that's interesting. So this particular dispute happened somewhere different than the previous dispute, and so they're all along the border and not just specific points. That was interesting. Oh yeah, the media coverage which you mentioned. I mean, I saw that in some Indian channels, of course, they're reporting this as breaking news. So it was really huge there. And then, yeah, so the strategy that you were talking about. So China's real concern here is that they don't care too much about these areas on the border, but they're just engaging in this dispute to eventually, hopefully, get better access to the Indian Ocean. Is that what you were saying?
Basically, to keep a good
To keep,
access to Indian Ocean, because by keeping India busy, because if India starts building up a navy along its coast, it would dominate the Indian Ocean. It has the most amount. It has full access. It has the full view of the ocean because of its coastline. So I think they're trying to keep India busy for now, so they don't modernize, they don't develop their navy, and at the same time they don't get too close perhaps to America. There are all the other stuff as well, but if India does if it does build up its navy, then it would be very difficult for China to combat that. This is far easier. You just send a couple of and by the way, these areas, based on treaties from before, there are no guns or what do you call them? I was gonna say warm weapons. What do they call
deadly
guns?
weapons?
Deadly? I don't no, just no firearms, no nothing. Like all they have are
Yeah,
sticks, and like the recent conflict was described as a brawl. So
yeah.
it's it just a few soldiers sadly die, but it's far low cost than building up a massive navy at this point for China.
Yeah, okay. Hand to hand combat then happening at the border. But okay, anything else on this? This is really, really fascinating. Very interesting. Anything else to add about this story?
No, but yeah, it's getting so fascinating that hopefully I'm gonna read up on more on it and come up with a more interesting topics. Maybe we can do deep dives like the ones they do in the print about the issue. It will probably be a copy of the print, but
All right, let's get right into our third story and just stay in the region. So Sam, tell us a little bit about the latest between Iran, the US, and the nuclear deal.
Yeah, last few weeks have been interesting few weeks with Biden coming to power. Now everybody's expecting some development on the issue. The latest development was the fact that the French foreign minister went on a radio show and clearly said that Iran is seeking to build nuclear weapons. This was obviously denied by the Iranian foreign minister Javad Zarif, who did, answer him on Twitter as well as other places, saying that this is bullshit, this is lies, blah blah blah, that type of thing. But what seems quite interesting is that the European signatories to the deal all are hardening their stance somewhat. At least the French and the German ones. The German foreign minister Heiko Maas, if I'm not mistaken, he was very, he was talking about the deal that includes things more than the original deal. He talked about the fact that Iranian ambitions should be, put in check or something like that. While interestingly, Britain, who is usually considered the closer ally and of Israel and US, they urged US to act as quickly as possible before the upcoming Iranian elections. But in my view, thankfully, this is something I agree with, but Iran does not seem to be softening its stance. And I think yesterday Zarif went to Russia, and or maybe it was today, they signed some security information sharing deal of some kind. And it's quite interesting because the situation is changing. It seems that the Europeans are taking a tougher stance than maybe UK and US. Although there are things that come out of US are also contradictory. Some people are like, no, we're going to quickly return to the deal. But the officials that are put in positions, they are, some of them are saying that Iran should first come back to the deal. Some of them say that Iran should first comply. So, it's an ongoing situation, but it was interesting that the Europeans are now taking the hardest stance.
So anything else on the Iran nuclear deal to add?
Nothing really, nothing right now, to be honest. It was just, the recent tweets and talks.
Yeah, and last week we did a show where we covered, so the Iranian elections are coming up. So you covered two of the candidates who are in the running, and we talked a little bit more about the Iran nuclear.
Two of the basically two people have officially announced that they're running.
Yeah,
and who knows.
And you gave your early assessments, which is that most likely the conservatives will win this time because reformists were in power and all of that, the usual stuff. Okay.
Although, to be fair, I mean, that's why I guess predictions are crazy to do, because the value of dollar has been going down quite a lot in the last week or so. So if actually they pull off reformist Rouhani pulls off a miracle, the whole thing will change. But as of right now, I think conservatives will win.
Okay, so you just mentioned the price of the dollar. Just explain a little bit, just for like anybody who's not from Iran, just about like the correlation of the price of the Iranian currency, which is the rial, and dollar. And just in 1 minute, talk about the last, let's say, 10, 20 years, whatever you want.
Sure. Well, last 3 decades in 1 minute. Okay, but no, I know what you're referring to, because I mean, if you're in Europe and America especially, but I think if you're in other countries, you do understand this quite clearly. Countries that are basically dependent on, for majority of their consumer goods, for majority of the goods used in industries, they are dependent on import. They need to basically, they're dependent on that. So they are on the forefront of basically when the value of dollar changes in Iran, value of everything changes. Gold, car, petrol, petrol is government controlled, so no, but value of everything changes and pushes up cost for normal people as well as for government, industries, and all that. And during the last 40 years, basically following the revolution, the value of dollar has been steadily declining with big jumps in the middle of it. But during the last 2-3 years, with the maximum pressure campaign from Trump and companies pulling out of Iran and all that, the thing went crazy. The value of dollar tripled, even I think maybe 4 times what it was maybe 5 years ago. So as a result of that, everything else also goes up in price, and yeah, basically everybody becomes extremely unhappy. But if it does go down, that would mean, a lot of people would become happy. Although I would say the price of products does not necessarily usually comes down as much as dollar does. For example, usually they go up and they stay up because life. So what we'll see, but except things like, let's say, computers, or things that are literally being traded in dollar, but things that are, let's say, food stuff, their price goes up, they don't come down usually.
And it's interesting that you mentioned food and electronics. So because electronics, let's say, all of these, of course, are imported, but Iran has a lot of agriculture, is a big agriculture sector, I believe. So does the food of locally produced, does the price of locally produced food also go up significantly when the dollar goes up?
It does significantly, because the producers also buy electronics or other things that have gone up. So that's one issue.
They have to live.
Basically. The more important issue is the fact that for example, for industrial agriculture, much of the pesticides, they come from abroad. Much of the soil, sometimes they buy soil to do this. So it's not that if you're in agriculture, you're definitely or fully independent, or you don't need, depending on what you produce, depending on your location, all of that could, so that industry is also very much dependent on international trade.
No, you're very right.
And Iran is a big consumer, like people consume a lot of food and stuff, so it's a big consumer society. So
no, definitely. Comment came out a bit ignorant. No, I think, but I mean, of course, everything's related. So just because you grow the apples in Iran, it doesn't mean it's not connected to the rest of the world. Economy. I mean,
I think it was a great.
I know. I was myself also, simplified it in my head. But okay, so we've talked about nuclear in Iran. We talked about this little dollar to real thing that came up. Oh, another fun fact about the Iranian currency is that there are two names for it, kinda. So the official one is real, and then you remove a zero, and it becomes toman. So just for an example, how much is $1 in a real right now? And then we move on from this.
I think today is 23. Oh, real? I don't know. I think it's 23. I don't know real. I never
it's in toman. Real. You just have to add a zero for it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything because this is math. And
no, of course. Okay.
I'm out of. Anyway, 23,500 tuman, something like that, right?
Is
now.
$1.
And about 2 years. And when before Trump's maximum pressure campaign started, it was around 8,000.
Mm-hmm.
And a year before that, it was like 4,000. So
Wow, so tripled and even
crazy.
Increased by 6 previously.
It reached 30,000 at some point for a day or two, but it was stable at 27, 28 for a few months.
Okay, and this kind of reminds me of one last thing, which is maybe another day we can talk about, which is fascinating in Iran. So you're thinking that if the price of things, the inflation can be so crazy because of these increases, but at the same time, putting your money in banks, they have quite a high interest rate, which might be interesting for like an audience in Western countries, right? It's interesting in that way.
Yeah. Oh, to be honest with you, should do a completely separate video about that. But yeah, you get majority of people put their because inflation is very high, so interest rates are very high, and it's usually good before dollar used to jump like this crazy. It used to give even more profit, I think, to you than if you just bought dollars and kept them.
Yeah.
So Iranian economic system is it needs complete reform. It's a crazy system that Anyways, yeah, we can get into that.
We're less than 2 months away from the Iranian New Year, so we're gonna put out a lot of videos about Iran. So we'll add this to the mix. But okay, you teased out a little fun story involving an Iranian police officer. What is that all about?
Yeah, actually, that was an interesting story because I usually follow international news, but I saw this one in Iran, and usually all the stories about Iran is about the corruption and how the Iranian police is bad and blah blah blah. But this was a great story, I thought, both about the police and the people of Iran's capital, Tehran, it was about a story that member of the parliament in his personal car tried to use this special lane for the buses, tried to go there and then block the way, and he blocked the way and stuff, and then not a police officer but I think a soldier, maybe not an officer but a lower rank, I don't really know, he went and told them that you shouldn't do that, come out, and you should use the normal lanes and stuff. And the MP got out of his car and apparently slapped the soldier. There is a video of it which I haven't, to be honest, seen yet, but there is a video of it that hopefully you can put on.
اول فیلم بگیر از همه چیزش کلی ترافیک در انداخته عابد اکبری هستم، سر دروازه دولت شیفتم. این ماشین اومده، راننده‌اش پیاده شده بدون مجوز تردد خط ویژه، به من گفته لاشی. خود نماینده مجلس پیاده شده، یه شک زده زیر گوش من که این هم شاهد داریم هم اون قسمت دروازه دولت به قبل پلوایی دوربین هستش. ایشون نماینده مجلس کل شهر رو به هم ریختم، کل شهر، کل همه جا رو بسته که میگه من نماینده مجلسم. میگه من آقا شما آقا ایشون چک زد، من شاهدم، چک زد ایشون مردم رو گرفته دیگه، نماینده مجلسه، 1000 نفر گرفته، نماینده مجلسه، کل شهر رو چرا باید چیز شما رو بزنه؟ واسه چی باید مأمور شما رو بزنه؟ زد مأمور شما رو زد. همین آقا آقا چیز ضربه میزنه. نکن آقا نکن. سیت ماشینم نکن مالا. آقا بگو بزن لابی دولت هم میبرید بزن بره بغل. آقا جمع کن کازا کودت رو برو بینم بابا. ترافیک رو انداخته نماینده مجلس.
This video or something, but yeah, he slapped the police officer and the people went crazy. The people started attacking the MP's car, saying that you shouldn't.
Sorry, let me stop you. So right here, one quick question: is this MP like famous in the way that people on the street would recognize his face?
No. He's from original Persia part of Iran. Actually, he represent that a city in Kohkiliya Boy Rahmat, if I'm not mistaken. He's basically somebody who rose to during the Ahmadinejad years because he was a good little boy that listened to everything everyone said. So
and his car and himself, it wouldn't show in any way that he's a member of parliament.
I don't know. I doubt it. There are cars with diplomatic whatever, and they are for embassies and stuff. So I don't know. But yeah, anyway, people went crazy, attacked the car, which was that part I saw of it. That was funny. They were kicking the car and all that. And on Twitter and everything, people have gone crazy after him. He has said that this is a lie. I only pushed the person, and he called me this is a rude word. This is something Iranians use, donkey, that sort of means you don't have any value. He called me a donkey or something, and I pushed him. I didn't slap him. But I think there are videos and many witnesses that he slapped him, and apparently he didn't. He wasn't rude or anything, the police. But I loved how, usually and I was glad that this happened. That the people are at least supportive of the police officer. That's a very good thing. And I like that police officer felt confident enough that he lives in a country that can talk to the MP and tell him that what the fuck? I don't care who you are. Just go to the other way.
No, definitely. And earlier on, I cut you off when you were giving a little background on the member of parliament. Was there anything else that you were
Oh,
saying? You mentioned how
he
he
was
came
a
up during the Ahmadinejad time.
I think he was a governor of Khorasan for a while. Then he became a government of the place
Where is
where
that? Where is
the
Khorasan geographically?
northeast of Iran.
Okay.
The Khorasan is now 3 estates. When I was a kid, it was 1 estate, and it's 3 estates now: Northern Khorasan, Southern Khorasan, and Khorasan Razavi, which is the center, Mashhad, and all that. It's it's probably altogether it was the
Okay.
largest.
So it has big cities in it then.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
Mashhad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mashhad is there. I mean, to be honest, I don't think there are any other big cities, but Mashhad is
Big city.
Mashhad has more tourists than Tehran does.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, and it's definitely more luxurious right now. If you go to Mashhad, you see buildings, crazy buildings. But yeah, he
Yeah, and
was
he's from
governor of
there.
and then I think Fars, which is Persian word for Persia, the area, original area. So but again, it was very interesting story, and I hope it's continue. Like, I hope he doesn't get away with it, and because police said they will try to prosecute him and all that. So I hope he doesn't get away with it. That would be fantastic.
I think that's all for today. Thank you for all the expert stories and insights. A lot of geopolitics today focused on India, China, and of course Turkey and Greece. But yeah, any final words?
No, but please like, subscribe, follow, and all that. And yeah, hopefully we'll get deeper into the Chinese and Indian issues. That may be the defining relation. Well, I doubt it, but it will be one of the defining relationships of the next 100 years or stuff. Two nuclear powers, two developing countries about to explode in terms of economic growth. So who knows?
Yeah, definitely. Wait, this just reminded me of one little fun fact that I read in this study recently, and that's regarding the population of both countries. But I can't remember the Indian one, so I don't want to talk crap.
The Chinese one by 200,
Yeah,
2100, they get
yeah,
reduced
very
from
interesting. And they're not scheduled. They're forecasted to lose like about a quarter of their population. But the Indian one, I think, is going to continue on rising. And anyway, there are enough people in China, I think, for the economy to keep on growing and growing. But okay, let's end on that. Thank you, Sam, and thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like the content. Leave any comments, criticisms, anything that you would like in the comment box below, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.